Hello everyone, my name is Kyle Dinsdale. Welcome to the malware analysis tools video. In this video I'm going to be showing you tools that are in the tools for malware analysis document. I'm going to be setting them up and executing a piece of malware that we can take a look at the results that these tools produce. So this is my vulnerable VM that I set up in VMware and installed Flare on. So if you followed that other document on how to do that, your desktop should look something like this. And all the tools that we're going to be using are inside this Flare folder. Most of them are under utilities except for Wireshark. The malware sample today is right here, malware sample.exe. And we'll be taking a look at that in the different utilities here. So let's start with setting up dirwatch. We want to have it monitor our C drive. And I want to have the results logged to a file in case I need to go back and take a look at the results a little bit later on. And they're just going to go to this other folder on my desktop called analysis. So I can go ahead and start that now. We'll come back to that in a bit. Process monitor or procmon. We'll set that up now. Now this tool, it shows us all the registry activity, file system activity, network activity, process and thread activity. What I'd like to do is I'd like to set up a filter for the malware that I'm executing. So I'll change that to process name contains. And I'll put the name of my malware sample here. Hit add, apply, and alright. So when we execute the malware, we should see some results here. Moving to the next one, I'm going to open up Process Hacker. Now, we won't see much here right now until after we execute the malware. It's pretty useful. It's like Task Manager, but shows us a little bit more information, has a little bit more options in the right-click menus. So we'll leave that alone and come back to that. The next one I'll open up is SniffHit. You might need to right click and run as administrator to get that to open properly. So I'll leave the network interface as is. That's fine for now. My log directory, because I do want to save results, I'll put that into the analysis folder on my desktop. I'm just going to add a couple more ports here. Then I'll just hit start for now. So minimize that and come back to it. Now the next tool we'll open up is Wireshark. I'll also have it listed on the local area connection. Alright, so that's going to start capturing packets now. We can clear it out or restart the capture with pressing this button just before we execute the malware, so we're not getting any of the general network noise. The next tool I'm going to set up is procwatch. And this is just going to watch for any new processes that are executed. So anything we start after this, it will show up here. In order to clear the results, we can just right click and click clear, and that'll clear everything out. So the next one I want to open is RedShot. Now with RedShot, we'll take the first shot now. after we execute the malware, we'll take the second shot, and then we'll select the compare option. So I'm going to leave the compare logs as a plain txt file. I'm going to have my output path. I'm going to change that to my analysis directory on my desktop. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the first shot now. Shot and save. Alright, so I'm just going to save that on my desktop and call that first. Alright, so we'll take the second shot after we execute our malware. And as you can see in ProcWatch, it picked up what we were doing, so we can just right click, click clear. And we can do that with some of the other tools like Wireshark. We can clear that, restart the capture. Sniff hit has some network noise. You can right click clear list, and then finally Durwatch. We can just clear that out. Alright, so we have our tools set up. So let's go ahead and execute our malware. It's opening up Durwatch. Looks like we have some activity. The malware sample that I just executed, it has disappeared. Looks like it's may have deleted itself or moved itself. You can see right off the bat here, we can see in Durwatch that the file, my malware sample, it was deleted. And it created this new file in the Microsoft Windows directory and called itself task defrag. So it's likely that my malware sample just moved to a new location. So moving over to Process Hacker now, right at the bottom here, you can see that task defrag file that was just created. We can see that running as a process. Alright, so these different tabs, these will show you the statistics, information about the activity that it's taking on the system right now. Alright, so moving over to sniff hit, we can see some activity. It looks like it reached out to this 176 IP address on port 8080. So we can take this and we can look this up on VirusTotal. We can double click on any of the IPs here to copy them to our clipboard. And we can just leave that running for now as something else might come up. Looking at Wireshark, we can see the activity that is going to that 176 IP address. Looks like our machine reached out and it is connecting back. Alright, so we know for sure that this IP address is an IOC, as this does not look like normal traffic, and looking it up in VirusTotal probably shows us that it is malicious. Right clicking on this traffic and clicking follow TCP stream, it will provide the results like this. So you can sometimes find more interesting information in here. Take a little bit of a deeper look. So moving over to red shot now, we can take our second shot. Shot and save. Alright, so I'm going to call that second. Now let's hit the compare button. Compare an output. And that's going to compare the first shot to the second shot, and it's going to export this file here. So these are all the changes that that happened in the registry after we executed our malware. Some of these registry keys that were changed and added and things like that, they may not all be related to the execution of our malware, but it still provides some interesting information. It kind of gives us an overview of what took place on the system. Alright, so moving over to ProcWatch. It doesn't look like too much activity happened in here. We can see when I executed the malware sample, and then it shows us when the task defrag process started. So one thing I like about this tool is if it's red, that means the process has stopped. If it's still black, that means it's still running. So in this case, the task defrag started, and it hasn't ended, but it does show us the start time and the end time and the path that it's running from. So in some cases, if task defrag was to launch another executable or run something from command prompt, we would see that type of information in command line. I have seen that with other pieces of malware, so maybe you'll get lucky and you'll see something like that here. Okay, so moving over to procmon process monitor. This is all the activity that was created by the malware sample. So we can see right off the bat it does a lot on the system. It's opening a lot of registry keys. It's querying a lot of them. It's creating a lot of files. There's a lot of information in here. One way to kind of sort through it is by using these buttons at the top. So if you unselect show registry activity, it'll remove all the registry activity from this list. If you want to export it, and if you want to export it into something like an Excel document, you can do that. Just go to File, Save, and then you can save it into a CSV file. You can just right click and you can include certain things like include file, and it'll show you all the include create file will show you everything that was fell under that operation. So a lot of information in here, lots of information to go through, and definitely provides you with a little more a lot more information about what the malware does on the system. You can go to Tools and then Process Tree, and it'll give you this information down here. So we can see, I'll just expand command here in the image path. So we can see the start time, we can see the end time. I started the executable, and it looks like it eventually put itself into this task defrag. So it's still running, started at 343, hasn't stopped yet, and we can add that process to the include filter. We can go to the event. Oh, that did not work, but the option is there. So any filters that you added, you can remove just by going to filter and then the filter option. You can just remove these. So I want to go back to just everything that was caused by my malware sample. And I'll bring that back up. So moving back to Process Hacker, you can right click on this on the running process and go to Open File Location. And since you have Flare installed, you have a lot of right click options here. So you can, if you need to, click Hash My Files and you can find out different hashes for the file. This will be useful for any IOCs that you want to include in your top 10 document. It has a strings option. The strings can sometimes show some interesting information as well, so that is something that you can grab here. You can submit it to VirusTotal to get an analysis number back if it is detected as malicious, or if it's detected as something else. And you have a lot of other options here to open it up in other programs that come pre-installed with Flare. So one thing I'd recommend when going through these steps and using these tools is to take screenshots. Take lots of screenshots when you're writing your top 10 entry. You'll have screenshots to use and nothing is missed. This is also a good time to take a snapshot. If you followed my guide on creating a vulnerable VM, you should already have a few snapshots. This snapshot will allow you to move back to after you executed the specific malware. So once you're done with this, you can move back to your clean, ready to infect snapshot. But if you ever need to come back to when you executed a specific malware, you can always go back to that time in the system. So one thing to note is a lot of these tools provide good IOCs. Say for example in Durwatch, we know that task-defrag is created in this folder. Sniff hit. There's a server that connects to port 8080, and we can see that in Wireshark as well. You can get a lot more information here. We know that some registry keys are changed and modified. And we know that the process continues to run on the system, and as well as in process monitor. Let me just remove this. There's a lot of information about what activity goes on in the system after executing this malware. So a lot of good information to include in your report, and a lot of different IOCs that we could include as well. So hope you enjoyed the content here. Hope you learned something. And with Flare, there's a lot of tools on here. Lots and lots of different tools, pretty much for everything you want to do in malware analysis. So take some time and play around, but remember to take some snapshots and definitely take some screenshots and some notes, so when you write your documentation you have all of it handy. Alright, thanks a lot everyone.